Welcome, welcome. I am back with another question from you, from all the amazing people who write me, not every day, but multiple times a week. And I get so many questions. I cannot respond to all of them. I always do my best to serve people that reach out to me, whether it's sending a podcast or recommending a resource, but sometimes I get longer questions that I truly just don't have the time to answer to them all. So when that happens and I think that it might be useful for you, I save those questions, and today I'm going to answer one of the questions that I received. Now, before I go on, I think I should introduce myself just in case you're new here so we can officially meet. Hi, I am Stacy Ennis. I am a #1 best-selling, award-winning author, and I am a book strategist and coach, which means that I help people write their books. I help them position books that help them achieve their big dreams, their big goals in their life. And today's question has to do a little bit with that and also with AI, which we will dive into. Welcome to Beyond Better, a podcast that explores a simple but profound idea. We all deserve to live lives we love, and that includes our work lives too. I'm your host, Stacy Ennis, an author, book coach, speaker, and long-time location-independent entrepreneur living in Portugal with my family of 4. Join me as I talk business, location independence, writing, publishing, and so much more, all focused on building a life that is beyond better. This question is longer than I would normally read. And normally when I prepare to answer these questions, I pick little slices of them. I don't read the whole question, but actually I think that the context is really important. And I think that for a lot of you who are considering using AI in your book, you're going to feel really seen by this question. So I'm going to read it in most of its entirety. I just cut a couple of little things that didn't matter so much to the question asking, or maybe to you. So bear with me, but again, I think this will be really helpful. So Trent asks, or wrote with this commentary and then asked a question. I feel like I benefit from AI to a degree with spell check and some of the punctuation suggestions. Plus, I've fallen in love with the read aloud back to me feature and don't know if I'll ever be able to edit myself again without it. I feel the word game changer tends to be overused, but not when folks apply it to words reading aloud. Now, let me just pause for a second because I tend to agree. And when we're talking about AI, while yes, there is AI that powers a lot of these features in Word, this is not really what I'm talking about when I'm talking about AI. Usually when you're using a closed software like Microsoft Word, which I actually haven't done the due diligence on. So if you have and you want to share with me, if you're watching on YouTube or listening in one of the podcast apps that allow you to comment, will you let me know if you know more about this? Because I would love to hear about this. These are not things that I worry about. When I'm referencing AI, I'm talking about Claude, I'm talking about ChatGPT, things like that. So not necessarily Microsoft Word's features. And also like 100%. I love the read aloud feature. I use it every day. Okay, continuing on. I'm going to tell you where I'm coming from in one area in particular on the AI issue, in case it helps you consider people outside the writing world in need of educating. See? I knew this was going to be helpful for you. And if you have any feedback to offer back, that'll be okay by me. It seems you are excellently qualified to help someone write a book start to finish for the first time. Well, thank you. And although I have written several books, I am yet to be published. So I'm sure I could use the help you're offering. However, I don't see how I can justify investing more in my writing until I see something I've written add some wind to my sails and maybe even dividends or opportunity back my way. I also, again, pause. There's more to this, but I just want to acknowledge that there are a lot of books. Actually, there's a lot of authors out there who have written books and not published, and that might be you too. And a lot of people that keep doing this, keep writing more manuscripts, or they just let dust collect. This is very common. So if you relate to this, you're not alone, it's normal, and it's okay. And I also understand that any goal that you're working toward, you need feedback. So If you keep working on something and you're not getting any feedback, you're not publishing, so you're not getting any input, you're not seeing any results, of course that's going to be hard to keep going. 100%. I really, really get that. Okay, continuing on. Here's the AI part, and one of the things I was trying to get some insight on. I feel very desperate for feedback. People in my circle will read what I've written and are super positive. But I was thinking of uploading, one of my manuscripts just to get something. Anything really, to help me make what I've written better, to grow as a writer, because I also don't see much sense in spending more money for lukewarm editing to not really improve. What I am trying to say in this rant, more than pointing out my own cheapness, that made me chuckle a little bit, is that you've talked me down from sending my work off into the cyber clouds. Yes. Even though it is memoir, and I think not as easy for someone to claim as their own, I would be inclined to use any advice I receive, and it seems that would taint my writing, at least as people see it now. So, well done. Thanks again, and obrigado. That's thank you in Portuguese. Fellow Bearcat. Bearcat, I went to University of Cincinnati. Go Bearcats. Okay, so this is a really, really nice question, and Trent, thank you for sending it in. And for all the not Trents out there, I bet you're nodding your head and feeling seen in some way, whether it's that you've written something you haven't published or you don't understand why people like me are out there going, don't use AI for that. I'm going to try to explain myself here. And also I want to just touch on some of the things that Trent said, just to validate how Trent and many people are feeling. So first of all, I want to just talk about the writing process. Now, Trent's example is a little different because he is further along, but for most people that are earlier stage, I really advise them to limit their feedback early on. I have a lot of clients that will say, oh, I shared this chapter with a friend, or oh, I shared this with like my nail tech. This happens a lot. People will just share with people that they see a lot, or they'll ask them to read it. And generally I'm like, ooh, slow down, hold on. Let's make sure that that's the best idea for you. And part of that is this kind of too many cooks in the kitchen can just make things confusing. But then also part of it is that you're in such a delicate state when you're writing. And so I like to call it your writing cave. It's like you go into your writing cave and you just kind of like huddle down and you get it done. And then you complete this thing and you get it to a place where you're ready to share, and then you get the feedback. So that's generally what I recommend, which it sounds like has basically been what's happening here. And then when you're ready for feedback, I typically recommend a professional editor and beta readers. Now that is a whole other thing. If you want to hear more about beta reader process, leave me a comment and I will do my best to get that into the queue for things that I talk about, because that's a whole thing. The thing is, as I mentioned, this process is really vulnerable and delicate. And so you really need feedback that you can trust. And at this point, you cannot trust AI. You just cannot. It's new and imperfect, and it tends towards sycophancy. So how do you say that? Oh no. I know sycophancy. Okay. We're not going to cut that because I think you need to see the human side of me that forgets how to pronounce things sometimes. And being really frank, sometimes it really produces poor quality writing. Those of us that are in this industry can sniff it out in seconds. Like, it's not good. So you don't want to get feedback from a tool that does not produce good writing. That doesn't seem like a great idea, does it? The other thing that I think is really problematic is that AI seems human, doesn't it? So I've heard my friends refer to Claude or ChatGPT as he, which is interesting. Why is it he? I guess Claude is more of a male name, but ChatGPT is gender neutral. Why is it a he? But anyway, I digress. It seems human, doesn't it? It seems like you're hearing from a professional or a friend, and it's very convincing. Very convincing. I just used Claude for some very simple math. I was having it create percentages for me of one total, and it got that wrong, and then it insisted it was right. So now apply this to your precious baby, your book. And the risk is big. The risk for you as an author is big, that you're going to get bad advice. Not only many of the things that I've talked about previously about AI, which we will be sure to link to that in the description of this video or in the show notes of this episode. So if you want more in depth about the problems with AI and the good things about it too, listen to that episode or watch that video. But, in general, I think if we can just put that aside, we can just look at the fact that it's not really providing quality feedback right now. And I think that's really important. I really understand the cost challenge, and, it's way more enticing to pay free $99 than to pay thousands of dollars for an editor. And you have to remember that these editors that you work with, assuming they're skilled, have poured their entire lives into their craft, and they are worth the payment. They are worth the investment when you find somebody who's skilled. And if you want to grow as a writer, as you said, then that means that you need to make the investments to grow as a writer. That said, I really need to just comment on the cost side, because I work in a very privileged part of publishing a lot of the time. I work with people who have budgets, who can spend, invest on their books, on their author journeys. They can hire me as a coach or do my program or purchase my self-study course. They can work with hybrid publishers or pay a self-publishing project manager. And that only represents a privileged portion of publishing. Now, some of my authors do get grants or other things to work with me, but they're kind of few and far between. So I recognize that there is a dearth of affordable support in publishing. I don't have a solution to that right now. I have been quietly trying to work on something for that, but it's not come to fruition yet. It's not AI. It's not AI related. And I don't know that, as much as I think it's a nice idea that AI will solve that problem, I think that we lose so much. We lose so much. And particularly the ethical side to this, and I think that the loss to you as an author is that writing a book is one of the most human acts that exist. I mean, it is. It is a purely human creation if you let it be. Right now, you have a lot of temptations to not let it be, to cheat, in my opinion, and cheapen the experience and shortchange your journey. And this is not, by the way, Trent, you wrote such a beautiful and thoughtful message, and it's in no way pushing aside how you feel, because a lot of people feel that way. And also, I think, I like to show up as a coach. This is my democratization, by the way. YouTube, podcast, my newsletter, which I'll be sure to link to in the show notes as well. This is my democratization of publishing. This is my effort to make this information available without you having to pay a cent to me. And this is all, again, understanding and empathizing. And yet, this is also such an important part of your journey, is the human experience. Are there exceptions? Probably. I think about, maybe somebody who wants to write a family book. Okay, this might be an elderly person who wants to capture their life story, and they work with a writer and they want it proofread and they use AI. They're never going to sell this book. It's never, it's just for their family. Maybe. I think about a lot of things where this, like that maybe still, it kind of hurts my heart a little, but I can acknowledge that there are places where this might make sense. So looking at my notes, making sure I got all my things. Okay. My last thing is just that questions like this are important, and I hope that more people ask them and are honest about it and question and challenge themselves to look for thoughtful answers and make a decision that feels aligned. So thank you so much for this question. And for those of you who are not Trent and watching this, I hope this was really helpful for you and your journey. And be sure to come back for the next question that I'm answering.